therapist. I've just kind of certified myself.
No.
There's nothing more to say.
No, that's not exactly how it works. No, but you didn't get it though. But you did.
I think it's borderline. So today we're back with another video on discussing popular but misunderstood mental health diagnoses. So the one we're in particular going to talk about today is what?
Generalized Anxiety Disorder, also known as GAD. Under the realm of anxiety disorders, there are a whole bunch of different anxiety disorders that go under there. Things like panic disorder, we spoke about performance anxiety disorder, all of that falls under anxiety disorders. Now, generalized anxiety disorders is a specific anxiety disorder that does not necessarily fit the other criterias that fall under anxiety disorders. So like panic disorders and the other ones I mentioned before, social anxiety disorders. There are anxiety disorders that are due to substance, if it's substance-induced anxiety, or anxiety due to medical diagnoses and things like that. So what would fall under generalized anxiety disorder are things not in relation to the other disorders I just mentioned.
So that would mean that it would be typically coupled with another diagnosis? Because how would you treat somebody with something generalized? Don't you need something more specific to give you more information?
Well, the reason behind the generalized, specifier to the name anxiety disorder more so has to do with the fact that the anxiety that is experienced is not caused by a specific thing that could be identified, like social anxiety disorder, for example. The anxiety that you experience is caused by your anticipation of a social event, right? So you would have anxiety that could be related, that could kind of produce very similar somatic responses. Somatic are physical responses to whatever emotional health issues that you're feeling, symptoms that you may be feeling. So the generalized piece is the excessive worry, it's the disturbance that's caused, but it could not be explained by substances or social issues or things like that. So it's a lot to kind of get into without talking about all of the anxiety disorders that fall under there, but let's just say because of the name generalized, it's just generalized. That's not specifically due to some of the ones I specified before.
So as part of the run of treatment for somebody with generalized anxiety disorder, to find out what specifically is triggering this, since they can't fit it into any other box that is already kind of more commonly known?
Sure. It is always good to have an idea of what could be triggering the anxiety that's experienced, right? Because in order for you to relieve yourself of the anxiety, you have to kind of know what is triggering the anxiety in the first place. But I would say the main focus of treatment would be for the person to resolve the need to have to excessively worry about something that they do not need to worry about. So the worrying and the anxiety is caused by it's an apprehensive expectation that the person may not need to experience worry over. So you may have children, for example, who may be experiencing anxiety and they're worried about maybe school performance or the grades and things like that, and they're caught up in worrying about it so much that they may end up going back and repeating behaviors or repeating projects and things like that, so that it could be to their liking, or it could be kind of perfection.
All right, so is there a certain group of people who typically end up getting this diagnosis or receiving this diagnosis? Do they have anything in common typically?
So the median age for this diagnosis, at least the onset of the diagnosis, is 30, believe it or not. However, it is such a wide range in which people are diagnosed initially with generalized anxiety disorder. You can have an adolescent or a child be diagnosed with GAD, all the way leading to an older individual. It just really depends on whatever factors that's contributed to the anxiety that the person has experienced. And then as far as whom, if you want to kind of discuss gender, I would say, and I believe most accurately, women are more so diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. The other thing, as far as like culture and things like that, you also find that people that are not like of African descent or Asian descent or just outside of Americans, they are slightly diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder more so than Americans.
Okay. So being that you talked about how generalized anxiety disorder is kind of a broad diagnosis, I mean, what would lead to someone receiving that diagnosis? I mean, what would go into that diagnosis being given as opposed to maybe drilling down and coming up with something more specific?
So I like to kind of break it down into different factors. So there's the temperamental factor, there's the environmental factors, and then there's the genetic and physiological factors. So generally, if there is someone in your family that is diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, 1/3 of those individuals, if it's in your genes, if you have a parent or something, you would be diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder at some point in your lifetime. So if you have 3 children, and let's say parents are diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, one of the children may experience that diagnosis because of genetics and physiological factors. Then there's also, just to specify a little bit more of the environmental, so I guess this is a little bit difficult to explain in that some people, based on where they are brought up, right, they experience particular adversities. And so some of the things that you may be exposed to from your culture, maybe where you live, maybe what is happening at the time. Let's say maybe there's a hurricane or something passing through, or if you know it's hurricane season and you know that you've experienced a bad hurricane in the past, those are things that would be considered like environmental factors. Now, it may not need to be something like a natural disaster, but it could be something in relation to your socioeconomic status. Maybe growing up in a low income or poverty-stricken area, you would experience some things that could cause anxiety, or that could lead to excessive worry about maybe your safety, things like that. And then there's just a temperamental, where there are people who experience the negative affectivity. Those individuals are, I mentioned like the kids who would redo their assignments and things like that because they're hyper-focused on making sure that they get it done a particular way because they're excessively worried about the work that they need to produce. So that would be a good example of that. So, and it could become a part of their personality. So those 3 factors again: temperamental, environmental, genetic, and physiological factors.
All right, so I know this is your field, but like based on your description, I would say maybe, let me see if this is like right. So like a woman who perhaps has had a miscarriage or maybe a stillbirth or something like that, then perhaps the next time they get pregnant, they may have this type of anxiety due to what happened in prior times.
I guess the difficulty in me agreeing to that would be
so close.
that it's in response to a medical issue, right? And so the worry
so
that
it's environmental.
So it can be, but so say for instance, and I don't know how closely people would relate a miscarriage to, say, maybe you were diagnosed with, maybe they found a benign tumor in your neck or something, and it was removed. And so now you have excessive worry that you might have a medical issue whether it's cancer or another medical issue, and you excessively worry about that.
But that's a whole other thing. Those people already. Those are the hypochondriacs.
It depends.
See, man, look, I'm a therapist. I've just kind of certified myself.
No.
There's nothing more to say.
No, that's not exactly how it works. No, but you didn't get it though. But you didn't.
I think it's borderline.
So again, if the anxiety is not due to like a medical issue, it's not necessarily directly related to a social issue, and it's just excessive worry about something to come in the future, or just excessive worry, and you're not concerned about how other people might view you, then it would fall under generalized.
All right. So I think that's it for that video.
Yes.
Next time, when you return, we will have Means gives you advice based on his therapeutic expertise.
Yeah, we don't want that.
You don't like that?
I don't.
You're not in the mood for a lawsuit?
Well, you don't have a license to lose, so you could say whatever you feel like. There are a lot of people out here talking about whatever they feel like in relation to therapy and mental health, and they aren't licensed, so they don't have anything to lose.
All right. Next episode, Ask Means. Send in all your most personal problems, and I will answer them in public. Anonymous only. You don't need to say your name. All right. Hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and any comments you have related to videos you want to see in the future, go ahead. We're open to it. We're already. This is a fan request, right?
Yeah, someone
Or a viewer request. I don't want to call people fans. I know our material is pretty terrible.
But what I would say is that the person inquired about anxiety disorders and all, and there are just a plethora of anxiety disorders to sit and kind of talk about. We'll probably talk about another one in a future video, but this is just one of the ones that kind of covers everything else that isn't covered otherwise. So I chose that because I feel like sometimes a lot of people are diagnosed with GAD, and it's an inappropriate diagnosis.
Okay, guys. Talk soon. See you later. Don't you hate when people say talk soon? It sounds so odd to me.